What up, YouTube? So it's the video that everyone's been waiting for, the update video on the robot animatronic drummer project, animatronic robot drummer project. I don't know, it's been so long I don't even know what the series is called. So my YouTube channel, I've always uploaded, whatever I want. It hasn't been any topics specific. So ever since I kind of haven't been doing any updates on this project, every time I post a YouTube video, I have people commenting, when are you going to post about Pasquale? When are you going to post about Duke? How about the animatronic project? So I dabble in a lot of stuff. I have a lot of projects going on, all the time. So, all my energy isn't always focused on this project. And this project is for fun, and I have, my motivation level comes and goes. So, if I don't feel like working on it, and I feel like doing something else, I'll work on something else, because it's not fun if I force myself to work on something that I'm not in the mood to work on. So, but I have been working on it since the last video, and I did a lot of little things to the figure that I didn't think were worth filming. And then what's been taking the most time is the oven show controller, or the oven project, or I'm calling it the oven, my show controller. So basically, pretty much, if you build an animatronic, or if you acquired one like I did, and you need to run a show, your best option seems like everyone's using Haunt bots. And they make good stuff. But, I have electronics background, so to me, I thought it would be real fun to make my own show controller from scratch. And that was something that I wasn't going to document in the video, because it would be above a lot of people's head. And I'm not no, electrical engineering genius. I'm far from that. But, I know enough to be able to do projects and get results. So I spent most of my time building up my show control system, which is the same design that I used for my 3-axis skull, which I did Little Red Riding Hood for Halloween a couple years back. If you want to check my video for that. That show control design is the same, the one I'm using on him is the same one as I used on that project, with the exception of that had 4 servos which had an analog signal, and everything on this figure is digital, just on and off. So yeah, that's what took the most amount of time, but I progressed enough that I thought it would be time to do an update video. So I'll show you what I did to the figure itself, what I did to the valves since the last video, and then I'll show you a little bit about the show control system, just show you how it works. I have a set of calibration tapes, so we'll run the calibration tapes, see if we can get the flow control set up with these actuators. And I think I might program something too in this video, just to show you how I would program something, and how it's actually very tedious. So, without further ado, oh, I almost forgot. I was going to give 2 shout-outs. First, I want to give a shout-out to Rockafire Guy 64, because he's a really cool kid, and he says he likes watching these videos, and he's been very patient. He never bugged me to post an update video. Unlike this other guy, that the only reason I'm giving him a shout-out is because I told him I was going to give him a shout out, but this guy, he hasn't been bugging me recently, but he was bugging me every other day, messaging me, where's an update video? And I believe his username is Bling Master, and apparently he really likes these videos too, because he's been bugging me to make an update video. He was the #1 culprit of bugging me. So here's your update video. Hope you enjoy. Do you guys remember how nice and neat I had my wiring when I hooked it up to my own connector? Well, that has gone away, but I can always wire tie everything back together. So these valves, I was very disappointed when I first started airing up the figure of how troublesome these valves are. But, you know, they are 30-some-year-old valves, so... And I'm sure they've been put through hell and abused and not serviced. So the problem I was having was I was getting a lot of blow-by coming out of these rear exhaust ports. And it was kind of puzzling me. And then I talked to a guy who was a little bit knowledgeable about these. And I realized that when I made the video on rebuilding the spoils, or lubing up the spoils and putting new O-rings in, I actually wasn't really understanding how these valves work. So these valves are kind of like, I would call them like a two-stage valve. So when the air comes into the manifold, and on a resting state, the air pressure goes out the bottom port, and the top port is exhaust. It allows the air to exhaust out. Well, in the back here we have electric coils. When the electric coil gets energized, it actuates a very small plunger underneath here that's only like eighth of an inch. I mean, it moves very little. And when that plunger moves, it diverts the air to the bottom of the spool, excuse me, that is spring pressure down. When the air gets diverted to the bottom of the spool, the air pressure pops that spool up against the spring, and then it switches the ports, causes the top one to be pressurized, and the bottom one starts exhausting. The exhaust leak that I was getting wasn't coming from blow-by the actuators. It was coming blow-by from that little, it's like a little valve that only moves 1/8 of an inch. And that is totally unserviceable. So they don't make these valves anymore, the specific model number of this valve, or they don't make these coils anymore. But I found out that the newer coils are drop-in replacements. So once I figured that out, I got on eBay and I bought 4 of these coils on eBay. They weren't expensive at all. I just shopped around and I was putting bids on any coils that would work. And I got 4 of them. And then the 4 that were exhausting the most, blowing by the most, I replaced. And that got everything under control. I still have a lot of blow-by. Pretty much every single coil has blow-by, but not as bad as these 4 culprits. And now, even though I still have blow-by, the valves work good enough to be usable. And my air compressor can keep up now. Originally, my air compressor wasn't even keeping up. That's how much air was being exhausted out. So that's what I did to the valves. And when I replaced the coils, I had to cut, all my wiring up and resolder it on. So I'll go and bundle this back up. So let's move on to the actual figure. I actually didn't do too much on the figure that I didn't document, but once I got the air leaks on the valves under control, I actually could hear that I had air leaks on the figure. And the number one culprit was this actuator right here. Now, you can go back in the previous videos and see the old fittings on this actuator, but I should have caught this when I rehosed the figure, but I didn't catch it. Somebody didn't know what they were doing, and for some reason they had this actuator mounted upside down. So these ports were facing the bottom. Well, when the ports were facing the bottom, this port right here was binding up against here, and as you can see, it wore it all away. It was actually binding up, and they knew it was binding up because they went and they put, instead of putting a 90-degree port, they put a straight port through, and that was leaking a lot of air. So I bought these push-on connectors, and when I was explaining the hose sizes, I told you about how the one hose size wasn't, the inside diameter wasn't correct for the barb fitting, but it worked on the barb fitting, but I wanted to keep the outside diameter the same for the new fittings. Well, the new style fittings, these push-on fittings, rely on the outside diameter, so I'm glad I did that. And actually, these hoses right here were too short. Since they were plumbed into the bottom, they weren't long enough to plumb up here, so I had to replace these two hoses. So I replaced these two fittings, and then I also replaced these fittings up here, because these fittings had 1/8 of an inch tubing, but I didn't have the right. You see, they use 1/4 inch tubing up to the flow controls. The only flow controls that are on the figure are in the mouth and for the body lean, but they had 1/4 inch going up to the bottom of the flow controls, and then I guess the flow controls had a different 1/8 inch barb fitting to go 1/8 inch from the flow control to the mouth. But I didn't have these flow controls because there was no hoses on the figure, so I only had the flow controls that were on the valve, so I don't have that fitting. So I had to use 1/4 inch tubing, and then up here it was an 1/8 inch barb, so I put an 1/8 inch tubing in, 1/4 inch over that, and zip tied it. So I had extra of these elbows, so I replaced those two fittings. And mechanically, that's all I have done to the figure. Really, the big things that stand out, things I need to work on, is I need to get rid of this play. And the only way I can think of doing that is to try to weld this in, fill it in, and then re-drill it. You see, because it's supposed to have these set screws to prevent the pin from moving, but the people who worked on it put these quick pins in it, and it walled out the aluminum. Because if it has a solid pin and a set screw in it so it doesn't move, it won't wall out the aluminum at all. So that's pretty much all I did to the actual figure. Okay, moving on to the show control setup. So basically, this top board up here I'm calling the recipe board. Its purpose in life is to program a show tape. And then this bottom board down here, I'm calling the oven board, and its purpose in life is to receive the show tape data and drive the valves on and off. So those are the two boards that I made up. And then a lot of this setup here with the computer and the mixer is for when I'm programming a show tape. I needed to have a mixer to try to set the levels right. But pretty much, I know it doesn't seem like much, but it took me a long time to get this together. I mean, I've been working on this type of show controller for like 6 years, I would say. You know, slowly, not 6 years constantly, just on and off, changing it, progressing it, and then finally I came up with this design. So, when a show tape is completely programmed, all the data is stored on an audio track on an iPod, and the other track is your music. So all you need to do is to plug the iPod into speakers and the oven, and it'll play a show tape. Now, when you are programming a show tape, you use your iPod with and I'm using an iPod because I'm having trouble with computers having isolated outputs on the channels. I have no problem with an iPod, but every time I plug it into a computer, it seems to have some kind of fade between the channels. It doesn't isolate the channels. So when you're programming a show tape, what you do is you have a iPod playing a clock signal and the audio. The audio goes out the speakers, and the clock signal goes to the recipe board. And the recipe board I'm using these micro switches with levers on them because I had them laying around and they seem to be working, comfortable to program with. And
using the recipe board, you build up your show one movement at a time, or 2 movements at a time. Certain movements you program simultaneously. So the recipe board builds up that program, and then once you're done with the program, you export all that data into the audio track, and you re-render a new audio track with the data and the audio together, and then that will solely work on the oven board. I hope that makes sense, but that's the way I did it. So far I programmed that little teaser track that I posted on YouTube earlier, and I just finished programming a set of calibration tapes, which, if you're watching Aaron Fechter's Paradise show, I had this idea in my head before watching those videos, because I knew how you wanted to have a calibration tape so that when you set up your flow controls, you can set up your flow controls the same every single time, no matter how old it is or what the heat's like. You want the flow controls to be set up the same every single time, so you need a calibration tape to do that. And then once you do that, when you replay back the show tape will look exactly how it was programmed. If your flow control starts messing up, the bot won't look like it was programmed. Is that making sense? I feel like I'm rambling on too much, but yeah, that's what I came up with. That's what I've been working on, and then eventually I'll get a neat box and put everything in a box so it looks all professional, I guess. I actually will probably print out a circuit board instead of having these point-to-point solders. So now let's play through the calibration tapes and see how well I can get the flow controls set up. Okay, I have the air compressor outside because the air compressor is pretty loud in this shed. This shed's metal and kind of resonates. Actually, when the air compressor was in the shed, I was wearing earmuffs. So we're going to run the calibration tapes, and I'm going to try to set the flow controls up so they look decent. If the air compressor cuts on, hopefully it's not too loud. It's outside, like I said. So let me turn on my power. Okay, we got power. That's good. And turn on the air down here. For the record, right now I've been running the figure on 50 psi, and when the figure's plugged in, I have the regulator set to 50 psi. So there's your air compressor. So hopefully it's not too loud. Okay, I'm going to do mouth. I'm going to put it to the mouse playing all the time. Turn on speaker. So I had the idea for the calibration tapes before I watched Aaron Fechter's Paradise video. But when I watched his Paradise video and saw that he was on his calibration tapes, he had tunes, so he had an audio representation of how fast the movements should be moving. I thought that was a great idea, so I kind of stole that idea from him. So pretty much, the length of the tune, you want the movement to do the whole length of the tune. So open is good. Open is good. We want close to be a little faster. So the flow control's up here. Okay, so I got the close one right, which is the blue hose. Oh yeah, by the way, I have all my flow controls set up to be regulating the exhaust, with the exception being the I-turn actuator. Another thing I've been noticing is the movements need to get warmed up or need to get broken in. So you gotta kind of run it for a while. I think that looks good though. If you don't think it looks good, write it in the comments. Okay, this one's eyelids. I think the left one looks good, the right one is a little fast. Cycle time for the compressor. As far as our leaks go, based on can the compressor keep up? Okay, so 5, it's opening too fast. So let's think about this logistically. So pressure goes in, for it to open, pressure, the orange tube is pressurized. That means we're regulating the exhaust, the blue tube. So I need to change the flow control on the blue tube with valve number 5. I'm an idiot. This is the right eyelid, this is the left eyelid. Okay, so let's set up. Faster in the left eyelid. Okay, so we want to close valve number 4, the blue valve. Pretty good. Now you're not going to get it perfect. These flow controls are 30 years old. They have little needle valves in them. I saw that this one guy goes and soaks them in vinegar and salt. I never done that. I probably need to do that so they're not as sticky. But I think that looks pretty good. Okay, eyes left. Now, if you remember, these have... Oh, sorry, when I stand on that part of the floor, it shakes the camera. If you remember, the eyes left and right have brand new actuators in them. Okay, they're a little... The flow controls are really funky for the eyes left and right because it's a single acting cylinder. Okay, so we need to change the pressure. Yeah, we need to change the pressure. Okay, we need to change the pressure on eyes left. Eyes left is number 6. call that good. Pressure on number 7. That's a mechanical adjustment I need to make. Let's move on. Okay, then turn left. Okay, when it's returning back, it seems like it's a little fast. So let's see. When it's returning back, so we want to adjust the blue on number 8. And just to get the little bounce out, call that good. Yeah, I'm going to call it good. Let's see. Way too fast going down, which is the orange one on head up at 10. Call that good. slop in this movement, so I'll never get it adjusted right. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Now, he's going to be drumming, so we want this real fast, but this actuator here needs to be replaced. I'll probably just go ahead and buy brand new actuators for both of them. This one I'll never get adjusted right. I'm not going to worry about it because these need new actuators right there. Oh! Okay, now the one thing I noticed about this movement is that it's very inconsistent. You see how it slammed back that time? Didn't slam back that time. Yeah, the body lean's very inconsistent. I don't know if that's the flow control or the actuator. I think it looks pretty good. Except for that when it slammed back. Oh, you see it slammed back right there. Isn't that something? Okay, I'm going to call that good. That's the calibration tapes. So that's how you would set up the figure. I can tell that the neighbor's dogs don't like the tones. So I'll cut it out for now. I'll go ahead and I'll run that that little teaser audio clip that you guys already saw. I guess I'll go ahead and we'll program something for fun, something short. I got to figure out what I'm going to program, but I'll find something that's real short so I can show you how I'll end up programming a show tape. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I found something to program. It's really weird, but it was really short, and I don't think I'm going to get a copyright strike from it, because I don't want to get a copyright strike on this video. Plus, I wanted something short, because programming takes a while, and I don't have it. I need to figure out how to rearrange the setup so I can sit in front of the figure and be more comfortable programming instead of all hunched over and stuff. So, first thing I want to do is I have the audio file with the clock signal attached to it on my iPod. So I'm going to take my iPod and plug it into a cable that's attached to speakers and the recipe board. And I'm going to play the file. Okay, so the figure is moving, and I didn't want that because it still has data in it from the last thing I programmed, which was the body lean calibration tape. So the first thing I need to do is clear out the show data that's stored in the recipe board. Okay, I had to jump cut that because I do have a little problem with the recipe board that I need to work out the cake to. So anyway, I cleared out the data in the recipe board so we have a clean slate. So when I play the file, First thing we want to do is program the mouth. So I have the recipe board to set up the program the mouth on button 1. So it's going to program it now. So let's see if I can get it first try. Okay, I messed up with the timing. There's a pause there that I can't get right. Let me turn this down. Let me play around with it. I'm a cow. Moo, 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 moo. I'm a cow. Moo, 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 moo. I'm a cow. Moo, 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 moo. Okay, I think. Let's see if I can get it on the second time. Turn it up a bit. Oh, I wasn't programming that time. I was like, well, why isn't it working? I forgot to set up the program. Okay. So, reset. Okay, now we're set up the program now. I'm a cow. Moo, 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 moo. Moo. Okay. Oh, it's too early. Okay. You see, when you're unfamiliar with what your okay, now the iPod's getting a little funky. When you're unfamiliar with what you want to be familiar with what you're programming, it makes it a lot easier. I'm a cow, moo, 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 and then I gotta get the pulse. Okay, here we go. Okay, for the sake of programming that, I think that might have been good. Let's play it back. Okay, I'm going to try it again because I didn't get it right. Let me... One thing I noticed when I was making the calibration tapes is I can... Look at that. Okay. Mouth. Let's do the mouth again. I was a little clicky on the. I was a little clicky on the. Okay, I think that was a better take. Okay, so let's see how that take was. Okay, so press that button. Okay, I'm going to call that a good take. So now let's go on and program the eyelids. So eyelids, we want emphasis. I want to program together. So use both my buttons this time. We want to have emphasis on the moos. I'm a cow, moo, 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 moo. And then at the very end. So we're all ready to go. Let's go. Okay, so I added some emphasis there. I'm just going to go ahead and rush through this because this sound file is kind of stupid, and I'm just doing this to show you how I build up a show. So, okay, so we got the eyelids. So coming up next, eyes left, right. I'm not going to program eyes left, right. I don't think there's any need to. Head left, right. I'm a cow. Moo, moo. Okay, we'll have his head shake left and right on the moves. So head left is button 0, so I'm going to put that in the right hand. Okay, so let's play. Okay, that was kind of, that didn't work right. Okay, so, okay, that didn't work right, so let's reset. Head left and right. Okay, the function wasn't as fast as I want, so I got to start a little sooner than what I was anticipating. Let's try it again. Oh, that's what I loaded the wrong file. Okay. So reset. Head left, right. Okay, 0. Okay, that seemed kind of cool. Okay, we'll move on to head up, I believe is next. Oh. Okay, head up is next. And I'll use head up as another emphasis thing on the moves. We're all set. I'm going to do that again because the very last move. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Okay, so I went and I rendered that show tape onto the iPod. So now the recipe board is not being used at all. It's just the oven board. The iPod is plugged into the oven board, into the stereo. So I played the show tape. And I have my iPod on repeat. Play it again. The cool part about this is you can use an iPod to play show tapes just like you're playing audio, so then I can instantly go straight to the other show tape that I have, which is that little teaser pulling over on me.
Arr, you think you can be pulling one over on Captain Scully, does he? Arr!
And then I can go back to the Mad Cow one. Cool.
So I hope this update video is everything you've been waiting for. Probably next time you see a video, I'll probably program a full song, you know, just to do something a little more and take my time and see how precise I can get the song instead of doing something real quick. Because both of the pull one over on me and the Mad Cow one, I just did them as fast as I can just to see if the system was working. I think I'm going to try to incorporate lights in the show too. I just don't know what I'm going to use, if I'm just going to use regular incandescent floods or get multicolor LED and, you know, send the signal over DMX or something. I got to figure that out. But before I get everything finalized out, I want to get lights working in the system, so, you know, that'll be part of the figure and lights going together. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I hope it was everything you guys been waiting for. Yeah, it's not really too exciting stuff. That's pretty much it. See ya.